I could hardly believe it when I saw it. For years, I've been attempting to do something scientists haven't been able to do yet, which is to find a way to mass agriculturally produce termitomyces, i.e. termite mushrooms, in an indoor setting, so that we don't have to forage for them from wild termite nests, which is how we humans get these highly prized, nutrient-dense, and medicinal mushrooms today. You see, these special termite mushrooms, which humans have eaten for centuries, grow from underground fungus combs, cultivated by special fungus-growing termites who eat the fungus. So we humans must forage for the mushrooms from wild termite nests during the rainy season, which is when termite mushrooms sprout. But if we could find a way to grow these mushrooms indoors and better understand the conditions that cause these termite mushrooms to sprout, we could possibly find a way to stimulate them to sprout year-round in controlled indoor facilities like we do with other mushrooms. This would have global implications in the world of agriculture, entomology, mycology, and even medicine. So my tactic to achieve this was to actually farm the termites first from single king-queen pairs in simple indoor setups, then use their colonies to cultivate and grow the fungus. Because I figured, why reinvent the wheel when the termites already hold the secret to getting the fungus to thrive? The termites know how to forage for the right decaying wood and leaves above ground, then poop this pre-digested material out into a comb formation on which the fungus grows, then alter the architecture of their nests to create the perfect environment for the fungus to thrive, which then produces the mushrooms annually. Now, all my previous attempts at this failed over multiple years of trying, with the colonies and starting fungus combs dying. And each time, I learned more and more about the termites process. But just last week, my latest plan to simply transplant an already mature colony of the termites with their already thriving fungus comb from a nest in my yard into the soils of my new tropical grasslands vivarium I call Verdantia showed the most promise. And guys, lo and behold, this week, you won't believe what I spotted at Termite Ground Zero. Oh my, is that what I think it is? Primordia! Tiny mushrooms beginning to sprout everywhere, all over the top of the nest. I couldn't believe my eyes. My plan had worked. This was the start of history in the making and a titanic scientific milestone. Or at least, that was what I thought. For little did I know, my dreams of successfully cultivating the famous termite mushrooms indoors would be intercepted by Mother Nature and her signature brand of chaos to rain on my fungal parade. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC fam. Enjoy. It was the day before the great scientific breakthrough. A crazy typhoon was passing through the country, and the winds and rain menaced and tested the windows of my home. But despite the storm, inside I was thrilled because this was the first major storm to hit with our new termites and fungus combs in Verdantia. It's said that thunderstorms trigger the termite fungus combs to produce the mushrooms which sprout from the termite mounds the next day. I triggered the rains in Verdantia to rain overtime to mimic the conditions of the storm. Scientists still don't understand what exactly causes the fungus combs to sprout the mushrooms. But some suspect that thunder and lightning somehow play a role. Others suspect that heavy rains are the cause, that they somehow hinder the termites from their usual meticulous grooming of the combs, which give the fungus enough freedom to produce their huge mushrooms up above ground to spread their spores. I didn't know, but this was one of the mysteries I was determined to find out. I didn't know it yet, but the truth about the events that were about to unfold over the next few days would be the greatest wake-up call amidst my naive ambitions for scientific breakthrough. a pair of baby isopods were crawling around a small mound of soil. In fact, this was an isopod hotspot called Termite Ground Zero. Covered in leaf litter, it was a buffet for a variety of different detritivores, i.e., creatures that eat decaying matter, like this pair of courting millipedes, and other adult isopods of various species and types. But that's when I spotted something peculiar and white growing from beneath the leaf litter. Oh my, is that what I think it is? I also spotted white fungal fractals sprawling through the soil. In fact, upon closer inspection, I found these white fungal patches all around Termite Ground Zero. I tried to consider all possibilities. Could they be just normal mushrooms growing from wet soil? Like what naturally happens after it rains? But looking everywhere else in Verdantia, I spotted no such starting mushrooms or patches of white growths. Only here at Termite Ground Zero. I guess we would have to wait and see what becomes of this mushroom. But there was one other place I could check to shed some light on this matter that for a week I had been holding myself back from checking. This here is the black cover I placed onto the glass to keep the termites and fungus combs in the dark, in fear that if I exposed the colony and fungus combs to too much light, it would kill the fungus or affect the termites' ability to tend the combs. The last time I opened it, the fungus combs and the termites looked healthy. I couldn't resist. I needed to know if this fungus was our awaited Termitomyces mushroom. I carefully removed the tape to open the blocker. Just as a flashback to last week, this is what the termite nest looked like. The termites had already begun to block the glass to conceal their fungus comb. There were a lot of babies around, soldiers, and busy termites. This spot in particular was peculiar, watching the termites hurriedly taking pieces of their fungus comb and transporting it into tunnels away from the main colony and fungus combs. I figured they were maybe storing the comb for consumption later, but the fungus looked healthy, despite a bit of mold creeping in along the glass. And those white mycotets, those nutrient-packed nodules, which the termites eat, were growing from the comb as normal. The soil above the fungus comb chambers were pretty empty. Also worth noting is that I did spot teams of workers, guarded by their protective soldiers, venturing above ground in search of decaying wood and leaves to consume and poop out to feed their fungus combs. I even added leaf litter from around my yard to give them more fungus food, which I was certain the fungus was already being fed by the termites back when they were still in the wild, due to the matching colors of the comb and the leaves. It looked as though everything was going according to plan, but I was about to discover just how much had happened within the nest in just the 7 days since I last checked. Driven by curiosity over the sight of the new baby mushrooms, removing the cover, I was shocked by what I saw. Whoa! Okay, creepy. I felt as though I was looking at the nervous system of some crazy alien organism. Fungi are so bizarre, but I loved it. I took in the architecture of it all for a moment. The branching fungus looked crazy, but I was ecstatic because these were the rooting stipes, scientifically known as pseudorhizas, which extend up from the comb, through the soil, and up to the surface for the growth of the mushrooms. What fascinating structures that would even extend through pockets of space within the soil. There were also root-like extensions of the fungus growing downward below the comb chambers. Checking out the comb, I could see a few critters, a springtail, and a few tiny worms, as well as many pseudorhizas extending from the comb. But you know what I didn't see? Termites. I only spotted one baby here, and it didn't look very active. But it was daytime, and in previous observations, I find termites are hiding and least active during the day. But if not, perhaps this could be evidence to support the ongoing theory that reduced termite activity over the combs during the extra wetness of storms, causes the fungus comb to produce mushrooms. It would be an amazing thing to confirm. The true test then is if these fungus combs continue to remain empty and unattended to by night when the termites are most active. I resolved to check back in the night and close the area back up. I couldn't wait for our long-awaited termite mushrooms to arrive. The fact that we were actually growing Termitomyces mushrooms indoors was a huge milestone, a long-time dream. But to be honest, I was still in a state of shock that it all happened so soon. It all kind of seemed a little too good to be true, and I began to wonder how scientists didn't manage to pull this off yet, as it was literally as easy as taking a beehive and sticking it into a tank and collecting the honey. Now I didn't know it yet, but everything I thought was going on was totally off, and a crazy discovery was up ahead. The Primordia was growing by the hour, and I could see more Primordia sprouting at various areas around the termite nest. It seemed like every time I checked up on it, the Primordia were bigger, and later that day, it began to point upwards. Come on, termite mushrooms, grow! Look at this one, which looks like a zombie hand coming out of its gravesite. I was a bit worried with all the detritivores around that the Primordia would be eaten, but it didn't look like they were a favorite food for the creatures. Not a hit for the isopods, nor the millipedes. Thank goodness. Night fell in Verdantia, and it was time to check the nest again and get to the bottom of whether or not a lack of termite activity causes their fungus combs to sprout their mushrooms. I opened the nest. I looked inside, and indeed, no termites around. Only that one baby in the same spot. I guess this was evidence that indeed a lack of termite activity on the combs could lead to mushroom sprouting. If this was true, this could have amazing implications for the mass agricultural sprouting of Termitomyces shrooms. Because if having a rainstorm over a captive termite colony is all it takes to grow the mushrooms, then it would be as easy as keeping a plant. Just water the nest, and boom, we have our mushrooms. Again, this all seemed too easy though, and a little voice in me was telling me something was off. But no, I pushed that voice of negative self-talk away. After all, we had just made a breakthrough in science, and I couldn't wait to welcome our termite mushrooms by morning. I covered up the nest and was ready to pop the champagne for breakfast and document the titanic moment in Verdantia. The next day, I approached the tank, ready to find some huge termite mushrooms, but was shocked to see this instead. Okay, so the mushrooms were still small. No big deal, I guess. And they also looked a bit weird. Not fat, and with a rounded cap like I expected. Some looked like pointy fingers, and others with small bumps on the tips. This Primordia looked like a white mass. Okay, so I guess our termite mushrooms needed more time. I don't know what I was expecting, as in the wild, the mushrooms seem to just sprout out of nowhere after a storm and are collected by morning. They spring up pretty immediately as they need to spread their spores into the air before being eaten up by other animals, ants, and insects, so that the spores can land on decaying material and be eaten by foraging first-generation termite workers of new termite colonies to jumpstart their own beginning fungus combs for their young colony. That is what's supposed to be happening here, but at this rate, I feel animals would have eaten up the Termitomyces by now, even though most of the animals in Verdantia right now didn't seem to want to have a bite. But on the bright side, it did look like a lot more mushrooms were sprouting now all over the nest. So when these mushrooms do reach maturity, I'll probably have enough to make a delicious celebratory soup. The next day, I saw this. the mushrooms still had not sprouted to full bloom, all remaining as just these thin little twisty finger-like extensions. I wondered if perhaps the growth of the termite mushrooms were stunted somehow. Maybe not enough water? Something felt wrong. And as more and more of these weird grayish finger-like growths began to spring up from the ground over the next 2 days, with no full-grown termite mushrooms in sight, I knew something was up.
Meet me at the crossroads. Meet me at the crossroads.
OMG! By the 6th day, the finger-like growths were at their peak and made my skin crawl. AC family, I know what has happened thanks to stumbling down a rabbit hole of studies, and it's the craziest thing ever. Now, there's some good news and some bad news. The bad news first. These growths are indeed termite mushrooms, but not what you may think. So, scientists have learned that there exists a subgenus of fungi known as Pseudoxylaria, also dependent on the fungus combs of fungus-growing termites to survive. They've been found to exist on Termitomyces fungus combs, healthy or otherwise, where they lay low, waiting for specific events to occur when they can spring into action, which I'll talk about in a bit, ambush the comb, and overtake the Termitomyces fungus. They're like a weed fungus that, once detected by the termites, are broken off along with the section of comb they're found on, and then buried deep into the soil, far away from the healthy comb, where soil microbes kill the Pseudoxylaria fungus. That explains what the termites were doing a few days after they were transplanted into Verdantia. So what then happened? Well, the Pseudoxylaria, as mentioned, wait for specific events to occur before springing into action. These events are events of major disturbance, such as colony collapse after the death of the queen, an outbreak of pathogens, nematode infestation, or a major attack and damage to the nest from predators or monitor lizards or humans. Our termites and their fungus combs had undergone at least 2 of such events. This makes me believe that mold we saw earlier on was actually the Pseudoxylaria springing into action in response to trauma to the fungus comb. The termites did their best to bury the pieces of infected fungus comb, but I suppose they failed to isolate the Pseudoxylaria and eventually lost the war against its rise to power over the fungus combs. These mushrooms were still technically termite mushrooms, as the termites did cultivate them. They were just not the Termitomyces mushrooms, the type we were hoping for. I don't think these mushrooms are edible at all, and they were now spreading their spores into the leaf litter to engage in their life cycle of spreading into other fungus-farming termite nests. This made my heart sink to the pit of my stomach. I wonder if this meant that all the fungus combs had succumbed to the Pseudoxylaria, and that our colony was now dead. A huge part of me felt so bad for the termites and their fungus combs. But guys, there is good news. There was still hope, because the fact that we saw no termites here except one could mean that the majority of the colony had abandoned ship before the Pseudoxylaria took over. The termites could have migrated deeper into the Verdantian soils, away from the glass, saving and isolating healthy fungus comb by completely sectioning off this region of contaminated comb. The sloping hill of soil that exists for the termites to expand into, towards the back and under the great tree, was vast and offered the colony a huge amount of free real estate to excavate into for housing of the fungus comb and colony, not to mention the amount of soil space that exists for them to burrow into westward. Here they also had an incredible amount of material above them to feed their Termitomyces fungus and hopefully keep the colony going. There was no way for me to know how the termites were doing, and all I could do was simply hope the termites had survived and were doing okay. If we spot any area of Earth looking like it is rising into a mound over time, we will know that the termites had managed to survive. Meanwhile, I placed a better black decal to cover up this infected area for future observation. This pseudoxylaria will eventually die out once it totally consumes all nutrition from the comb, after which the termites would be safe to move back in and start again. I did spot this peculiar growth among the fingers of pseudoxylaria, and it looked different from the rest. Was this a surviving Termitomyces primordia? It also didn't grow much bigger than this over the next few days. If this was Termitomyces, somehow lacking what it needed to grow into full bloom, this gave me hope that Termitomyces may have a fighting chance to survive against their pseudoxylarian enemies in the Verdantian environment. I couldn't give up just yet. I'd made it this far and already learned so much. I'll try to reach out to scientific groups that are studying Termitomyces in Africa and other parts of Asia and send them this episode to get more info and opinions on the situation. This termite mushroom side quest has been important to me over the years because aside from the mushroom's high nutrient content and great taste, recent studies on Termitomyces have indicated that bioactive compounds within the Termitomyces fungus have the potential to fight against certain human diseases such as cancer, hyperlipidemia, gastroduodenal diseases, and Alzheimer's. I've lost family members to cancer and Alzheimer's, and my mother is a 3-time cancer survivor. Imagine if we could unlock the cure to cancer through further studies of Termitomyces. Furthermore, Termitomyces possess various beneficial antioxidant and antimicrobial properties, the latter being important in this age where pathogens are growing immunity to our antibiotics. It's why I'm going to continue with this quest to grow these Termitomyces mushrooms indoors and gain a better understanding on how the entire system works within the termite nests. What I did learn from all this was that the process was definitely challenging and involves more parties and variables than I ever realized. But if we could somehow find out Mother Nature's secret as to what gets the Termitomyces mushrooms to sprout and replicate the conditions in an indoor setting in a way that doesn't cause the pseudoxylaria to overtake, this would be monumental. We could apply this knowledge and strategically calibrate multiple termite nests housed in weather-controlled vivaria to staggered seasonal schedules, so that one could harvest termite mushrooms for consumption or use in research from different colonies year-round, and not just 4 months out of the year. But the first step is getting the Termitomyces mushrooms to successfully sprout first, and my hope is that somewhere cloaked within the darkened soils of Verdantia, our termites, whom due to popular request, I've decided to officially name the Fun Guys, are busy somewhere tending to healthy fungus combs and lovingly plucking away the pseudoxylarian weeds so that we could one day achieve that awesome fungal dream of growing the legendary Termitomyces mushrooms in Verdantia. Okay. Poop tunnels! The Fun Guys are alive! Alright! Vote in my community tab to affect this story.